Okay, we are here again for Perspective on Athletics, and today we have Mark McHorney with us. He is the Director of Athletics at Benedictine University in Illinois. Mark, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us.
Thanks, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Well, it's going to be a fun discussion. I know you've got a great program related to student development and what you're trying to provide for your student athletes there. But before we get to that, can you provide us with a little bit of background about you, your career path, and how you ended up in the position you're at today at Benedictine?
Absolutely. My path is unique probably to those that are in this chosen career field or lifestyle field, however you want to define it. But I was a basketball coach first, and that's what I wanted to do. I like recruiting, I like coaching, I like riding the bus. I really enjoyed those things. I began as a graduate assistant at Concordia University of Chicago with their men's basketball program, and then upon completion of that, I worked for a year in undergraduate enrollment at that institution before an opening here at Benedictine opened in athletics with a recruitment coordinator position for the entire department. Worked at that, developed systems, and tried to organize the recruitment effort of the entire department as a whole. And then slowly started kind of taking on a few more duties that came my way, and one being our facility, running the day-to-day operations of the gymnasium and our indoor facilities. And then I started doing compliance in working with eligibility, the NCAA, and those types of things. And then I was fortunate enough that the university spent a period of time without a director of athletics, where our day-to-day leadership was two assistant athletic directors running the operation, reporting to a VP at the university. The senior leadership of the university decided that it was a good time to change that, and they felt that I fit their needs of what they were looking for, and we kind of got here, and it's been quite a journey and an interesting one, very non-traditional, but it's a fantastic career.
It may have been somewhat unconventional how you ended up in your position, but very common in the sense that the world of small college athletics is full of multiple hats. You've got a bunch of different jobs to do, and you just get it done. And that's very common on most campuses. But I'm curious, when you first got into this, you said you wanted to be a coach, and then you gradually got more and more into some more administrative responsibilities and duties. Was it ever your aspiration to be a director of athletics?
I didn't really think about it. I really, as strange as it sounds, I guess I always saw myself kind of marching up and down the sidelines, coaching guys in shorts, But I feel I'm very competitive by nature. And I think learning that you can still be competitive in different areas it has been vital to me maybe making that type of transition. There's certainly things I miss. You can never replace the camaraderie of being part of a team, and yes, you're part of a team as the director of athletics, I guess, but it's not the same, and that's hard to replace. You find new ways to develop relationships. Recruiting's all about developing relationships. Well, now you develop that with external people, your alumni, your fan base, your donors, your student athletes as a whole, their parents, and the staff here. Everything is about relationships, and so I think once you figure that it's okay, you're able to step out of that world. And I talk to people. I encourage them to give it a chance and see what they think. But it's been a very good transition for me.
Well, and it seems like you have transitioned well, and I know you're doing a lot of great things there at Benedictine. And one of the things I found interesting is that Benedictine as a university has kind of a unique model in the sense that they have multiple campuses, satellite campuses, and what is more unique is the fact that I think that several of those, or at least a couple of those campuses, have separate athletic departments, and you're getting one up and running in Arizona, and you're kind of heading that up from Illinois. So I'm just curious if you could just talk a little bit about how that has come about, and what some of the opportunities and maybe challenges are to starting up an athletic program somewhat remotely.
There, it's interesting because we've become accustomed to be able to Google things to find out how to do things, right? And if I'm at home and I need to learn how to hang a picture, I can Google it and figure out how to do it. So upon Googling starting up athletic programs, there's been many startups, but they've all come from different situations, and it was hard to find a blueprint for brand new school, brand new athletic department, kind of along the same lines. We're very fortunate that the city of Mesa was seeking educational partners, and Benedictine fit what they were looking for, and our senior leadership decided that that was a great place for Benedictine to be. And if you've ever been there and you've ever seen that and been in the city of Mesa, and specifically in the location of where the university is located, you'll see right away that it is, without a doubt, it is a fantastic move for us. The uniqueness is just pushing the train and getting that started, which came from helping the university develop an operational plan of hiring and recruiting and how to do that. And it's interesting because I believe right around November, we decided that, yes, it was time to start executing the plan. So we sent a team down there, a team to start recruiting for athletics for that campus. And we visited about 200 schools in Maricopa County, which is where Mesa is located. And we spent about 4 weeks developing that group and trying to develop prospects and do that. And for that school to thrive, we need enrollment. We need it to get going. The academic piece is fitting in nicely, but we saw this as a good vehicle to get students. So we started out with a goal of 60 student athletes year one with 4 sports: cross country, volleyball, tennis, and golf, both having men's and women's. So 8 sports, 60 total students, and we were happy. As of yesterday at 3 p.m. Western time or Mountain time, whatever they're on, but the difference there, we registered our 60th student. So that was a big success. Now we're pushing that. We want to get a few more, so we're going to keep going. But we were able to bring a staff member in and hire an associate AD down there to kind of run the day-to-day operations. We charged that individual. Steve Schaefer is his name. He's a phenomenal young coach and is going to be a phenomenal administrator. Someone who I worked with here at Benedictine and have known well. He came in and really put his stamp on the recruiting group and class, hired coaches right away. We're able to find great coaches, great fits right from the get-go, and get that moving. So while, we're running, I don't necessarily think we're running things anymore from here. The early days, the first couple of months, we were running an interesting operation until we could get someone hired there. But, Steve is now taking that program under his wing and running it. And it was nice to turn over a plan that someone could see and visualize and execute. And now we get back to our business here. But it is unique, but it's been a fantastic opportunity, to say the least, just to be a part of it. And very humbling. And, getting in a car and driving around schools, I haven't done that in a long time. It was fun to do that again. It was, neat.
Very grassroots too, it sounds like, starting from scratch. Well, you talk, Mark, a lot about recruiting, and in fact, obviously as a coach, that's a big part of your job. Your stint in enrollment management, recruiting was a big part of it, and it's all about relationships, like you've said. And I think that what I see is that you have a very strong commitment to students and student athletes and their development, and that's a big part of what coaches do, I believe, and what recruiters need to be able to articulate as the benefits from their institution. And that transitions us to the program we want to talk about. You have something at Benedictine that is very, very student-centered in terms of developing them during their time at Benedictine. And I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit more about your SOAR program, kind of where it came from, the original idea, and kind of what led up to that, and how the implementation and transition has been going now.
Well, it's fun to talk about. We're very excited. The interesting part is we actually haven't done it yet, right? We've planned it. We've done some things. We've test piloted some programming. This is our first initial kickoff and really getting after it. And what we've done is I don't know if it's safe to say, but it has to be one of the largest collaborative projects that our campus has seen. And what we're doing is we're taking different areas of the university, specifically our 4 colleges, career services, our leadership and development area, our alumni and advancement area, our Center for Mission and Identity. We're taking those areas and bringing the services that they already provide to our student athletes specifically, and using the vehicle of athletics to one, help those programs gain more attendees and help them grow, but also to give our student athletes some personal and professional development opportunities. And it's a lot of things, right? And self-awareness, learning how to shake hands, learning how to properly greet somebody, even learning how to professionally text nowadays. Those simple things, to bringing networking nights to them. We've partnered with a group outside of Benedictine, McTeague, the McTeague Financial Group, who's been outstanding, who's coming to teach our students how to dress, behaviorally assess how they go into interview process. So we have a lot of things coming at them, and we've basically built a curriculum. And we've presented it a few times on our campus to certain constituents and off campus. But really, at the end of the day, we want to get our kids jobs. And not that that's like what we're only trying to do, but too many times our students are coming here to grow. Our job is to allow them to grow and then to move them on. And, we need to move them on to something. We need to help them. They're seeking it. Their parents are asking for that. And we had students that, quite frankly, they came back. And I think people in our profession hear these students like, well, I went here and now I can't find anything. And a lot of times we always point to the student and say, well, you need to go do this, you need to go do that. And we do not look at ourselves. And my personal belief is higher education should be held accountable for that. And we're doing it. We're out. We're doing it.
So Mark, back up for a moment, because I think all those things are great and needed, and students will benefit hugely from these things that you're going to be providing. But where did this originally come from? Where was the aha moment, or where was the inception point where you or other people sat around and said, you know what, we need to do something like this? And how did that conversation go, and then subsequent conversations with people that were going to need to be involved on campus?
Literally, it just started over time. It's kind of, a flywheel. It moves slow, and then it gains traction and make it momentum, and then it moves quicker and quicker. And we just started to see this happen. We heard from more people about job opportunities, and then you hear a few different speakers, and you start grabbing an idea here, and one of the things we heard was to equate everything to a spider web, right? And these spider web of connections can lead people to different opportunities. They just don't have one line. They have different lines going in different places and in all sorts of fields. The other side of it was, we heard people talk about the importance of, putting out a good person. And there's a lot of definitions of that, or however you want to define it, but it's the ability to, when they go out and represent us, or themselves or their family, they have the self-awareness to understand how they're doing that. And so when people are looking for people, they're specifically looking for a student athlete who's been part of a team, has been multiple commitments per day, outside of what would be perceived as school or work or play. And we wanted them to look for a Benedictine person because they see that these students have certain traits, and they know that they're getting someone who has gone through some sort of personal development. Your scholarship schools are doing this. They're doing that. I can't speak for Division III schools or NAIA schools. I can only speak for us. I would, we'll stand by our program. It doesn't work unless you bring everybody in. And that's going out to people and telling them how you want to do this or how you see things. It started with our own staff, and then it grew to the university community and the external community. But there wasn't one aha. I think it's some of the greatest ideas have been borrowed and manipulated and turned, and it's another product as well for our coaches to use in recruitment. And so everybody's winning. Everybody is successful if we can get this to work the right way.
Right. But how is it received by those other campus departments that we're going to need to be involved, whether it was career services or student services? Initially, I think people might respond positively with, oh, great, we want to do something for our students. But there really needed to be, as I've heard you describe it, deep collaboration across campus. And that takes effort. It takes resources sometimes, at least people resources. So initially, how did those conversations go? Was it well received, and have people maintained the energy that you have?
It was. It was, everyone agreed to be a part of it. Not everyone had to do that. Everyone could say no. But, deep collaboration, we always talk about it, and that's moving past the email and the phone call of saying, hey, we want to work together. Everyone knows what that means in their own place, and that's scratching the surface. We're talking about really getting in and actually, like, you're going to do this for this event. You're going to get the speakers. We're going to bring the food. You're going to set up the chairs. We'll set up the table. We're really starting to get into this. We knew we had some good things going when the university is exploring these learning communities as part of our curriculum here. And when we were invited to talk about that, and we sat in a room with faculty members and had an amazing conversation about how this could be part of a learning community, or could be, or couldn't be, or what we would need to do. And all of a sudden, a few of us stood around and said, okay, we've hit something here. Something is working and resonating. I do think that takes time, though. We've had to build trust with the faculty. We've had to build trust with those other units on campus over the last few years. To not have that doesn't allow that to happen, maybe. But it's been really well received. It's moving forward. We have everything scheduled. We have dates selected. Our speakers are selected. Our curriculum book is being shared with the parents in a couple weeks when the new students move here. So it's going really well. But we still have to execute it. And that's the planning has gone well. It's now you have to deliver, and we had two faculty members that rightfully so, their concerns were sustaining, and I think a lot of us in athletics can understand we are some of the best people at popping up new ideas. We can pop up an idea with the best of them, but can we sustain the idea over a period of time and improve it? And for us, that's the test. The easy stuff's done.
Yeah.
It's that next level of, can we sustain it? Can we effectively do this? And that's why we have a lot of help.
Right. Well, and you've described this using the word curriculum. You've developed a curriculum that goes into this, and I know you've mentioned a few of the components already, but what are some of the highlights? I mean, as you look at this program, as you're talking with parents about it, as you're talking with prospective students about it, what are the key elements that you think are a part of your curriculum, and then the benefits associated with those that the student athletes are going to benefit from?
I think our first one is we have a boot camp that all of our student athletes are going through. And we all have our orientations on campus and how we do that. We saw this as a way to bring it under the umbrella. But, we have the university police coming to deliver a substance abuse and sexual harassment session during that. They're partnering with our athletic trainers to talk about drug and alcohol use as a pattern of that. We have a component where we're doing a hazing overview with one of our staff members, and then we're bringing in our development and leadership team from the university to do a bystander intervention orientation. We had Sister Gertrude develop with our campus ministry program a program to get our students to understand the Benedictine values and how that is incorporated into what they do every day in athletics and on the campus. Now, the neat part of that, all this is we focus it on our student athletes, but there's always another moment, and that'll come when we start working with our staff members, and in terms of leadership and how we lead and how we're doing things. We have a number of head coaches, we have a number of assistant coaches who want to be head coaches. Our jobs, we're athletics is always seen as the entertainment business. We're like farmers. We're here to grow. We're here to grow and move them on and plant new crops. And so how do we educate our staff members, and how do we want to be perceived as leaders in the community? So there's a whole nother level to this that will be coming down the line.
Yeah. Well, and obviously this is your first year implementation, so you're kind of going into this waiting to see what the actual results are going to be and see if they align with what you intend them to be. But in your best hopes, as you look out a year from now or 4 years from now with a group of students that have been through the program their entire career, what do you point to as this is what we want them to get out of this SOAR program? What is the main thing that you're hoping will be accomplished?
Two things. One's always statistical. We always like numbers. So, we want 90% of our graduating students to be either employed or in, grad school or whatever that next level of education is for them within 6 months of graduation. And then the second thing is, I think when we start hearing that the old adage of no matter what campus you're on, sometimes student athletes can be perceived a certain way. And it's not always the fairest assessment of what's going on, but it is what it is. And I think we want our student athletes to be recognized because they have the self-awareness, and they're seen as leaders in the community. They're an example for faculty members to say, wow, look at all the student athletes sit in the first 2 rows of class. They don't wear their ball caps backwards, right? They take notes. People take notes. They actually write notes. They're not on their phones or on their iPad, or you know what I'm getting at. I think those would be, successful outcomes. We're really trying to change maybe the culture of how student athletes are branded at the university, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And what I hear listening to you talk about this program really speaks to the whole concept of integration of the athletics experience into the overall educational experience. And on every level, you are trying to do that, which I think is a big part of a liberal arts education or any small college environment, that student athletes ought to be gaining valuable experiences in their athletic experience, but learn how to take that and apply it to every other aspect throughout their educational experience. And it seems like that's a big part of what you're trying to do.
In a nutshell, yes. We do want them to be involved and seen that way. A hard thing, I don't know if, they're always going to be recognized as athletes. And that that won't change no matter what campus you're on, because they're the largest, one of the largest student groups at liberal arts colleges and many Division III schools, NAIA schools, even Division II schools. They are the largest student group, and they come with their own set of qualities, but they're also one of the only student groups that, when they're active and doing something they're supposed to be doing, they're always wearing the name of the school on the front of their chest. They're always representing the school every day. They don't have off days where they just don't get to represent the school. So while they need to be interwoven to the whole fabric of the student experience, there's also a quality there that I think student athletes need to understand and utilize to use as a strength of theirs as they move throughout the world and employment and life and relationships and all that.
Well, this is very exciting, and we wish you the best of luck in your first year implementation. But you've mentioned a couple of different times leadership. And the critical component of this program, along with many other things, is leadership and how your coaches will respond, and the athletic staff and others on campus. And I always like to ask people about their thoughts on leadership, kind of generally, what you think is important for leaders to do and to be and to represent, and what represents effective leadership in your opinion, and whether that's related specifically to athletics or not. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about leadership.
I appreciate that. Hopefully they're worthwhile, but I think the first thing is you have to come to an understanding that you have to be a servant. Servant leadership is a huge component. You're here to serve others in almost any aspect of college athletics. No matter where you're working or how you're working, you're there to serve other people. And that's a huge thing to understand that and understand the responsibility that comes with it and what that kind of means. You can't expect from others what you wouldn't expect from yourself. And, you're no matter what you're doing, you're a walking mirror. People are looking and they're seeing how you do things, and human nature they will replicate that. If you want coaches to work hard and stay in the office and make calls at night, if that's what needs to be done in your area, then hopefully you're there calling donors and calling recruits yourself and showing them that you're willing to do that. You want people in the office by 9 a.m., don't be in at 9:15. You want people to dress a certain way, make sure you dress professionally and appropriate for the environment you're in. It's those types of things that I think are important. Being approachable. I think you have to be approachable to students and parents. Athletic administrators have sometimes you'll hear them like parents. No, it should be yes, parents, because we want to develop great relationships with parents. We want to be approachable and hear them, and hear what they have to say and their thoughts, and they're valuable to our operations. They support the people we look after. Just listening. I think listening to people and understanding their points of view, even if they're always different, it's good to understand that. And then I think having some vision, not getting stuck in treading. You want to be swimming in the water, not treading with the water. And kind of what comes with that is just, never be happy with the status quo. And I think if that doesn't mean you have to publicly not be happy with the status quo, but personally, not being happy with the status quo and making the effective change that needs to happen in order to move an idea or move something forward. How do you do that? Those types of things I think are keys.
Yeah, no, I think those are all great words of advice, and really the things you're talking about are key components to building relationships, which I know you've mentioned several times already as a big part of leadership, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. As we transition to our last segment here, one other thing I always ask people about is their advice for any up-and-comers or people looking to break into the industry or advance their careers. As we look at the country, there's literally hundreds of graduate programs in athletic administration, sport management, what have you, and all these kids are expecting to graduate and get jobs in athletics. And the reality is there's probably far more graduates than there are actual jobs. So people are always looking for ways to set themselves apart or advance their opportunities or set themselves apart. So I'm sure you have conversations like these with students from time to time. So I'm wondering what your advice would be for a young up-and-comer either looking to get into athletics or advance their career.
I think, I'll just provide my opinions. Advice aside, there's a lot of people who give a lot of people advice, but I'll just give opinions. And mine, I simply have three. And one of them is, if you're already working, if you're already in a position, you need to be effective and you need to be innovative in that position. They always say, do this job well, and the next opportunity will come. it'll present itself. I think too often we see people really reaching out, and so much so you might hear from people for multiple openings. Well, if you want to be a development officer and you want to be a marketing, how many hats can you wear necessarily when you're trying to break into something? But it's doing that first, and if you can be innovative and bring new ideas to any position, you make yourself valuable, and that can be very beneficial. I go back to the second part is having that self-awareness, and conducting yourself in a professional manner, no matter where you're at. You never know who's looking. You never know what door may open because of that. That's very important, I think. Understanding the accountability that comes with the profession and embracing that. If you're in fundraising, understand that metrics matter. If you're in recruitment, understand recruiting numbers and those metrics matter. If you're in compliance and eligibility, understand that we can't have miscues there. That's important stuff. So it's understanding that. And then the last is, I think, developing a trusting relationship with your direct report, your supervisor, and potentially maybe their supervisor. And that doesn't mean you run around them and do things, but if you can develop a trusting relationship and a valued individual, you never know when opportunities may come, and you got to be ready.
Yeah. Well, I think those, again, are also great words of advice or simply your opinion. Either way you want to phrase it, I think those are great words that people can take to heart and hopefully help themselves as they look to get into athletics administration. Mark, we've come to the end of our time, but I do want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing your thoughts on various things and sharing more about your SOAR program. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mark, and hail Benedictine.
There we go. This has been Perspective on Athletics. We've had Mark McHorney, Director of Athletics at Benedictine University in Illinois.